Hey guys, Justin here. I wanted to take a quick second and tell you about the second annual Growth Now Movement Live, held in my hometown of Reading, Pennsylvania, May 15th through 17th, 2020. This event will feature some of my top guests like fitness influencer Natalie Jill, massive keynote speaker Anthony Trucks, and Bellator MMA fighter and humanitarian Justin Wren, and many, many more. This is going to be a life-changing event. It is truly a day-and-a-half long rock concert for entrepreneurs, forward thinkers, and people who are ready to take their life to the next level. So if that's you, head over to gnmlive.com and grab your tickets today because prices are going up soon. Again, go to gnmlive.com now to level up your life and truly create the life of your dreams. Can't wait to see you there. What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now Movement. This week, I sit down with Jenay Rose, aka Namaste Jenay. Jenay is a certified thought coach, certified transformational life coach, 500-hour registered yoga teacher, and mindfulness expert. In teaching modern mindfulness with one-on-one clients on social media, via public panels like General Assembly, and through corporate wellness programs with global brands like Cotton On, she facilitates healing daily for our community. Her core principles are founded in overcoming fear to return to love, getting into alignment with the universe to achieve greater peace of mind, eradicating limiting beliefs to create a life you adore, and creating a roadmap to step into your personal power. Now, with the official bio out of the way, I want to tell you how amazing Namaste Jenay is. You know when you connect with somebody and you immediately have a deeper connection, like you were meant to meet, you're meant to learn and grow from each other and continue a strong business relationship. You know, this is somebody who immediately set all of those alarms off for me, right? Like she knows her stuff. She is heart-centered. She has developed a massive business going from 0 to almost 7 figures in 18 months, which is mind-blowing. And she's helping women all over the world do the same thing. So if you're somebody who is woo, but then wants to start doing the do, this is the episode for you because she can connect to the spiritual while teaching you how to build a massive online business for yourself. This episode is an absolute can't miss. Now, before we get to this interview, I want to tell you guys some exciting news about Growth Now Movement Live. The Namaste Jenay is going to be joining us at Growth Now Movement Live as a movement maker in 2020, and I am so excited for her to be there, connect with you guys, give you all of her wisdom, her love, and her soul. You guys are absolutely going to love connecting with her, learning from her on a panel, and so much more. So with that being said, tickets are going quickly, and we are going to sell out soon. So make sure you head over to gnmlive.com. Grab your tickets today because this event is going to be a can't miss. If you're in the Northeast of the United States, this is hands down for you. It's a drivable distance, and I will tell you this, nothing like this happens in the Northeast, let alone the country. So head over to gnmlive.com, and we will all see you there. Now, let's get to the episode with Namaste Jenay Rose. Jenay, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Justin. So excited to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I just want to give a shout out to one of my sponsors, Ultra Human, because you were literally already my 4th interview for the day, either being interviewed or me doing the interview. And it's so bizarre because people don't realize if they don't have these types of conversations, they don't realize how tiring it can be. And so Ultra Human makes a nootropic called Tau, which gets me through days like this. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I got my Tau. I'm good to go. But I'm really excited about the conversation. You know, obviously you guys reached out to me and I saw everything and I was like, yes, like this just makes sense. I think, you know, kind of how you built your business and where it truly comes from and how you're helping other people. It just hits the nail on the head. But why don't we take a second now and you tell us who Jenay is today, and then we'll break down how you got there.
Absolutely. So today I'm a multiple 6-figure entrepreneur in the online space, specifically helping women learn how to leverage the platform of social media and Instagram to start and scale businesses. So that's what I do today. Full-blown entrepreneur, living my dream.
I love it. And so it's always exciting. Like I know when I talk to people and they had the job before and how excited they are just to be a full blown entrepreneur. Like I'm the same way because I've been a full blown entrepreneur for 2.5 years now. And it's been the greatest 2.5 years of my life. And sometimes in the beginning, very, very stressful. But it's all paid off in the long run. But how did this all unfold for you? Obviously, you go by the moniker Namaste Jenay, which they can find you on Instagram with that name. But like, how did this all start for you as far as like understanding the online space? Why was it an intrigue to you? Let's start there.
Absolutely. So kind of backing up a few years, I worked in corporate for about 4 or 5 years. Right out of college, I was the first employee of a little known startup called Dollar Shave Club that was bought out for $1 billion later.
Crap.
Yeah. So that was an interesting start as like a senior in college. I was like, my parents thought I was crazy. This was this whole like beginning of Janay's crazy. She's going to do whatever she wants to do. They're like, you're, a young girl at USC and you want to go work for a men's shaving company that no one's ever heard of. Like, that's the job you want. Yeah, right. They're like, you're crazy. And I would agree with that. I'm a little crazy, but I really had the most incredible experience there until I started having like nervous breakdowns because the company grew so fast and I was like so close to Mike at that point. And there was just a lot of pressure and a lot of people coming in between and being hired. And I mean, the company just obviously exploded. Like, I went from packing razors in my dorm room to, working in these like really large offices with, people crammed next to each other. So that was my first taste of the digital space and viral content, which I think implanted something in me that I didn't know would hatch like 5 years later. But I was let go of that job, and that really changed everything for me because after that, I couldn't really find my footing. And I started having a lot more anxiety, a lot more depression, a lot more just feeling like I was a square peg trying to be smashed into a round hole. And so I don't think I kept a job for more than like 9 or 10 months. So I was like constantly getting hired, but I was great. I was a great interviewer, which I think makes sense now that I love to podcast because I was always like a cat. I landed on my feet, but I was really unhappy. And then my most recent job was business development for one of the biggest brands in the world, Coca-Cola. And I thrived, but again, really unhappy. I became vegan. I was plant-based. Like I was, living this more conscious lifestyle, and I'd found yoga, which really supported me in kind of that mental health shift of like mindfulness and, self-care and all of these things. And everyone around me was drinking Monster at 4 a.m. at these like, big meetings and things. So it was this like really dichotomy that was in front of my face of like, what are you doing? This is not you. You've proved yourself. You had the job for over a year. Like, I think I had that job for about 2 years. And I was like being promoted and making less money. Because when you leave sales, it's that whole corporate thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
that wonderful trap.
It's a mouse trap. And it was 7 days before my 27th birthday. I like caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. And I was just like, this is it. You're either going to buck up and commit to this life of pleasing everyone around you, like your parents and security and society, or you're going to quit and you're going to figure it out. And at that point, I had become a yoga teacher and I was kind of teaching on the side, and it was a big passion. So I quit. And that was the last job I ever had. And it was definitely an uphill battle. I watched my savings plummet. I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I had managed to kind of be at the forefront of the yoga movement on Instagram specifically. I had a lot of friends in LA that were, really like famous yogis, if you will. And so I was able to start like influencing. Sure. And, I had around 20,000 followers at this point. And so I was able to make money. And I was like, whoa, this is like a first taste of entrepreneurship, right? I was been like slaving away for $20 an hour teaching yoga around LA, which is, first of all, a very competitive yoga teaching environment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like everyone's a yoga teacher and their moms. So that was interesting. And I realized again, I was like, this is a hustle that I don't want. Like I really want to have a bigger impact. And so I started sharing my journey around anxiety and depression and healing that through different like natural modalities and techniques that, the other 7 limbs of yoga taught me.
Yeah.
And people started asking me like, can you teach me these things? And that's when I was like, oh, you can become a life coach and help people. And I launched my first group program in 11/18/18, so about a year ago. And now we're on track to hit, I think, $900,000 this year. So it's been just a huge like explosion.
Whoa. Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Like that's insane. So you're literally like 14 months ago.
Yeah.
And now you're going to hit almost 7 figures.
Almost 7 figures. Yeah. And I pivoted. So Yeah, I just like this. I think it came naturally to me. Like I had that drive and that grit and that like desire to like work 24/7 and figure out what the hell this is. And so it just kind of exploded.
Yeah. So let's talk about a couple of things. I mean, you said so many amazing things that I want to dive into. So first of all, you talk about the anxiety and the depression that comes with living this life that's not fulfilling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what you were doing. Yes, that's what society says you should be doing. Go get a corporate job and hustle and work your way up the ladder. If it is working up the ladder, who knows? But you're living in this like anxiety, depression. And I think that's something that's happening very, very regularly around the world. So what was your realization? Because I think sometimes we can be in that type of mindset and not even 100% realize it. We just think this is what life's supposed to be. I'm supposed to be miserable. So what was your like, I need to get the hell out of here moment?
Oh my gosh. I really didn't know who I was. And I was like, honestly, this is going to sound silly. I was like, you're about to be 30 and what are you doing? Like, it was kind of a wake up call of like, you're not happy. You haven't been happy for probably 5 or 6 years since you graduated college. Mm-hmm. And I really like always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I had many failed little projects before this. Like I tried to do jewelry, I tried to do, all these different little things, but they never like left me that drive to really want to be independent and kind of prove everyone wrong, right? So like when I quit my job again, this whole, you're crazy. And then when I was like, I'm going to become a life coach, you're crazy. I'm going to be an influencer, you're crazy. And then it was like, oh, okay, well now, in less than a year, right, we had done over $250,000 in sales. I'm like, oh, am I still crazy? And so that validated me to like really expand. But it was just this disconnect of like, you get this one precious life. Like, that's it.
Mm-hmm. And so what are the steps, when say somebody's listening right now, and a lot of my audience are those people, living in that day job, wanting to kind of break out and then move on and kind of live their purpose. Like, what did those steps look like for you? Was there a healing process for you first? Or was it like, I'm just diving in and I'm about to grind?
Absolutely. A lot of healing. And a lot of I just was tired of accepting the status quo and accepting like what people had told me I was supposed to do or the only thing I could do, because you can't be an entrepreneur. It's not safe. Right. And I started thinking and I started just really mulling over like, why is that the case? Right. Because a lot of us take action based on logic rather than emotion. And so I was like, I need to have this make sense in my logical mind. And I realized there's actually nothing safer than being in control of your own destiny, right? Because they could take that job away from me at any point. That had happened to me so many times. Like I was literally fired from almost every job I ever had, besides the last one that I quit. And I think I worked for my dad for a little while and I quit working for him too. And that was it. Like everything else, it was like, it's not us, it's you. Like there's something wrong with you. We don't want you. And that like kind of built that fire and stoked that fire. So I think the steps were really coming to the understanding that like I was going to live this single way until I die. And I couldn't commit to that. I just couldn't do it. I was like, this isn't what I want. I don't want the white picket fence. I don't want the old American dream of like 1.5 kids. I want the new American dream. I want to build a business, chase my dream and change the world. Yeah. And so I wasn't willing to accept any less. And so if you're not willing to accept less, then I think working on a side hustle is like a totally fine thing to do. Like I was teaching yoga, I was doing these things, but I also trusted myself and I trusted that I would figure it out. And I think that that's something a lot of people miss is like, if you don't trust yourself to be able to really figure it out when your back is against the wall, it might not be the right move for you.
Yeah, no. And that makes total sense. It's so funny too. Cause like I hear your story, like, I grew this Instagram following and then I was like, oh wait, you can make money off of this stuff. It's kind of like me in podcasting where like all of a sudden I have this podcast audience, but I didn't have a business around it. And I'm like, here we are. I don't know what I'm doing. And it just kind of happened from there where, everything kind of started to take off and now we do the live events and we speak and we do all these other things. But I think for me, at least, it was really about aligning myself with the people who understood the space a little bit and understood truly how to build that. So how did you figure all of that out and navigate that? Because look, I know a lot of people with a lot of followers and they're doing nothing with it. So like, how did you get that switch?
Absolutely. So just for an example of what you just said, I interviewed someone, we interview our applicants for my mastermind. And she had over 800,000 followers, was still working a full-time 9-to-5 job in LA, probably making $45,000.
Oh my
and
gosh.
I know. So she couldn't monetize an audience. And now she's almost at 1 million followers, still can't monetize it. Right. And so
That's crazy.
but it's true. And so when people think, oh, there's these influencers making a ton of money, Yeah, potentially. But if they don't know how, it's like they're just sitting on a gold mine that's like going to turn into a bomb, like a ticking time bomb, because they have no idea what to do with it. And so that's a funny kind of thing that you brought up. But I think really learning about the space, like you said, is absolutely imperative. And so I went and I just studied. I was like, what are other people doing? Who are they working with? And I wasn't afraid to reach out. Like I would reach out to these brands once I realized there was something there. I was like, I'm going to figure this out. Like I want to make a bunch of money. I was making like $600 a post, which compared to a lot of people, not a lot, but that was enough to like make rent.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
it's not Kylie Jenner, but Jesus, like that's still insane. For anybody listening right now, they're probably like, holy shit, you can make money off of a post?
Yeah, exactly. And I had, for 20,000 followers, I was making about 600 a post, which is pretty good. And so I would go and I would look at like other people comparable to me, and I would look at what they're doing, look at what's working, look at what's not working, like studying the industry. And I would take it upon myself to reach out to brands, which most influencers are kind of like, there's a little bit of ego there of like, I'm this like online celebrity, I'm not going to do the work. Right. But I wasn't that way. And so I think a lot of brands appreciated that. Like, oh, she wants to work with us. So sure, we'll give her, the offer. And so I think that helped kind of build the momentum. But then I realized really quickly, like I wasn't passionate about it. And I didn't like that I was just like promoting products to people. And so then that caused another pivot. So I think being able to like learn from the feedback and listen to it and not just like ignore it and kind of bullhead or spearhead past it, but like really see, okay, what is the feedback I'm getting and where is that telling me to go? And I think that's why I've managed to be successful is like, I pivoted a million times and I never was like, you're less than, you're worse, you're failing. It was just like, okay, this is a new avenue. Let's go try it.
Right. No, and I like that because I think I'm pretty similar in that sense as far as like how mine is built out. And people are like, well, you talk about visualization all the time. Like, how do you have a vision if you have to pivot? I'm like, it's part of it. Like, you have to be paying attention to the things that are passing by. If we're so stuck in this one lane, we're going to drown. Right. And so how are you constantly like able to stay in your lane and grow what you're doing, but also be still paying attention? Does that make sense as a question? Like, so, and how do you know, and at this point, obviously your Instagram following is almost 100,000, you're doing almost $1 million this year, which is crazy, but how are you still being able to handle that, but still paying attention to things as they're going by? Like, what's the multitask? What's important? What's not important?
That's a great question. And I think for a lot of new entrepreneurs, it's this creator versus consumer. And so if we're consuming too much, it's really hard to create. And so there is kind of a healthy boundary, especially when you're wanting to create content, because you can't be muddled with what other people are doing. You really have to have a unique voice and know that other people will resonate with that. But for me, it was really like maybe spending a couple hours a week at most, learning and seeing what other people were doing. And then the rest was like, okay, I'm going to put that through my filter. And now that I have like a niche and an ideal client, I use what I see outside of the space. And I think this is something that allows me to be ahead of like my, quote unquote competitors or other people in the space is like, I don't just want to be an online coach. So I'm taking information from the rest of the world, from real businesses, right? From other industries. And I funnel that and I'm like kind of reinterpreting it in a way that it can make sense and add value to my niche. And so you can do that in any industry, whether it's online or not, and you can pull like data and information and, results from other kind of industries. And I think that gives you a little bit of like a leg up and of competition towards like everyone else is copycatting, right? Like they're part of my industry. I call them robot coaches. Like they all have the same mentor. They launch the same products in the same way. So they all went right. And I was like, I'm going to go left. I'm going to hire like a real true business mentor, right? Who might not be as big in the online space, but really knows what they're doing. And they all have a product that looks the same. My product is completely different. So it was kind of like, I see what they're doing and I'm going to take the things I like, but I'm not going to just do what everyone else is doing.
Yeah. Let's talk about ego for a second, because we talked a little bit about that in the ego of the influencer space and the online even the online coaching space. I actually just had a conversation with somebody about the podcast space and how many egos are in that as well. And I think that it's becoming very, very toxic. People look at me now, a year ago, they're like, you do podcasting full time? That's a thing. And now they're like, oh, you do podcasting? Like, it's like this ego driven type of thing. And they know that a lot of people in the space are like that. So with you, how did you make that shift from feeling not worthy, being in the depressed state to being confident enough without crossing the boundary into ego to charge what you do charge? Because I imagine doing 900,000, it's not cheap to work with you. So how were you able to cross that and still feel good about what you're doing?
Yeah, well, pricing is never
And I don't know
fixed.
what you charge. I'm just guessing.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I mean, our program's an investment, right? It's like a 90-day container, so it's 12 weeks of live interactive coaching and really invaluable content to help you start and scale. And we have proven, transformations of $0 to $10,000 in 90 days. So what we have works, right? And so there, of course, it's going to be an investment, but we're almost underneath our competitors for the value. So for me, it's a lot about prices aren't fixed, right? So if you're new, start low. Like I started it, I think my first coaching client was 1 hour and it was like $99. Right. And that was it. Yeah. And I don't think I ever went above like 125 for a single session. And I was like, okay, this isn't sustainable, right? I have all these clients. I think I had like 50 one-on-one clients because I had the community for it. Right. And I never asked people to pay me. I was posting for free for years, just building this community on accident. So people trusted me. So it wasn't like I'm here to make, it wasn't like I'm here to make money. It was like, okay, I have this really thing and you guys have seen my journey and I've shared so much. So if you want to learn some of those techniques and practices from, my spiritual, development, I'm happy to share them. And that's sort of how that began. So prices aren't fixed. You can always increase your prices. And I always say that your customers should feel like they're getting at least 3 times the amount of value that they're investing. Right. So if I'm
You're literally
asking you,
saying things that I say all the time. Like I love
it. we're totally aligned. What I would say is like, if I'm teaching you how to make consistent monthly revenue at $10,000, let's say I asked you for half of that, right? An investment of $5,000. It should make sense to you because you're getting a proven 6-figure framework, right? Like not everything is that logical. And it's harder as a life coach to really support people in making that decision of like, you're investing in your health, right? I think now it's easier. But as far as, that's the pricing component is like, I know that what I'm giving away is so much more fucking valuable. Is so much more valuable than the exchange of currency, right? Like I believe current is an ocean, it's water, money, it's energy. So it comes in, a current comes in, a current goes. So it's always this like exchange, right? I'm always investing in my business. I have a full staff, like I have a team. Like there are, the money isn't just going into my pocket where I'm like, I'm a millionaire. Like I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, and there's a difference too. There's a lot of these female mentors and coaches who are like posting about their Chanel bags and their G-Wagons. And that's just not really like the vibe I'm with. And I think it's because I come from the more like, I had to do a lot of deep inner work to get to that place. And do you know what I mean? And so a lot of that, I think really crushed the ego, really like helped me stay out of that place of like, that's not who I want to be. I really am here to support people who want to be an entrepreneur because I think it's the best thing in the world.
Yeah. And beyond that too, like, and I want people to understand as they're hearing this and somebody who might not be familiar with the coaching space and all these things, like, honestly, I charge what I charge because if I don't, people aren't held accountable. Yeah. Like if you're not I literally before we came on here, I just recorded a solo episode for my podcast talking about if you don't invest in something, you're not going to put it in. Anything I got for free, I didn't care. And so that's why I charge. It's more of like, look, I'm going to hold you accountable because you're investing in something, you put more out. And that's what I love hearing. Like my goal is always to 3x what somebody puts into whatever they invest in me. Like I have a $2,000 ticket to my event, which includes a mastermind, which they should 10x if they do it the right way. And I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? So when I hear what you're putting together, it makes total sense. But you also talked about this spiritual journey, right? And you talked about like the awakening of what you're teaching and all these things. What did that journey look like for you? Because it's so different for everybody. Sometimes it's religion, sometimes it's a Gabby Bernstein, sometimes it's whatever. Like, what did that journey look like for you?
Yeah. So I was raised Jewish, but I never really considered myself religious. And so when I started having a lot of these breakdowns of this, like, what are you doing with your life? Who are you? Like, you're not happy. I was partying a lot, doing kind of the wrong things. And then I found yoga, right? So yoga was the first healing modality. And it brought me into this place of working on my mindset and understanding that like I didn't have to believe the thoughts that were going through my mind. And that was like a huge opening for me and I dove in. Like I have done so many kind of transformational workshops and Vipassanas, which is like a 10-day silent meditation and all these different, plant medicines. And so I just really went in on the journey. And that I think has opened me up to be able to grow my business. Cause I always say like your business is a mirror for you. Right? It's like, if you're unhappy, your business is going to feel really hard. If you're, not confident, your business, there's probably not going to be a lot of clients coming in. And then at the same way, it's like, if you're really true in your purpose and you're confident in what you're doing and you know that you're helping people and you're giving all of this value, like I give away so much free value, as do you. So when you then come and say, this is the ticket, people shouldn't have an issue with that, right? Because it's reciprocity. It's like they want to reciprocate it. You've given them free value for 3 years. And so, it just gets to that place of like, I'm giving and I give so much that when I say that this is the investment, there's no shaky quality, right? There's nothing around me that feels like it's bad or evil. Because I know that if you don't do it, you'll just miss out on this amazing experience, but that's part of your journey. So there's not like an attachment, I think, to the money. And so I think that that's how you can really tell a lot of like an ego, if someone's like in their ego versus someone's really in their alignment, it's like, there's no attachment for me. I don't miss out if you choose not to invest in you, because it's not about me.
I love all that stuff. And I love, you can feel your passion when you talk about it. It truly started with a passion for one thing, and then it led to this massive thing for you. And I love seeing that, because I think that that's kind of what so many people are chasing in this world. And look, I've never been one to knock a corporate job. I made a lot of money in a corporate job before I went off on my own. And if you're happy there, great. But the key is to be happy, right? And so as you go through this coaching process, what does it look like to even set that up? Like, what does it even look like as far as the steps to go? How do people step out of like being a receiver, and then they begin to be like the server to this information?
Absolutely. So that's actually how I decided to transition into being a business coach and a business mentor, was because I had this life coaching container called Your Own Healing. That was like my first group program. And I launched it, I think 2 weeks before my wedding. So it was just insane. And like, I don't recommend it. Insane. And I think I made $18,000, and I was like, oh, there's something here. Like, that was a hello, like what, wait, there's something here. So that was an intimate group program, a 6-week intensive journey where I really just took women and I taught them all of the personal practices around, mindset and all of these things, and emotional intelligence, self-mastery, that they could implement and see drastic change in their lives. And they were skills and tools that they could take with them forever, right? Like, once you invest, you have that content forever and all of the updates thereafter. Another, again, like a great way to add value. And so they were all graduating out of this program, and they were like, can you teach me to do what you're doing now? And I was like, oh, okay. So I ran Your Own Healing a couple of times, and people continue to ask that. So the market, I feel like, will naturally sort of channel you in the direction that's best serving your expertise. And we all have gifts. Like, we all have gifts. We all have an expertise. I don't care how old you are, your experience, whatever. You have like a natural ability that I think you just have to like allow and receive and open. And so for me, it was really, I think, perception. Like, I was really perceptive. And so I picked up on those cues of like, oh, okay, if people are asking me about this, there's a business there, right? And so I studied every business book I could find, right? I went through I hired coaches. I made so many freaking mistakes. Like, I literally hired a social media company that was a phallus, and I thought they were going to run my Instagram, and they stole my money. And every dime I made those first 6 months was gone. Like, every time I made 20 grand, it was gone. So there were big struggles. It was not all just like, oh, $1 million. Like, that's all great. No, it was like, oh, the universe is giving me the big middle finger, and I have to now learn the lesson because I know it's part of what I'm supposed to be teaching and doing, right? And so all of those failures collectively made me so much better. Like, oh my gosh, we just pushed a huge content update for my mastermind, and it only started in June. So it's only, maybe 7 months, and I totally redid all the content because I'm like, I'm so much better, right? Yeah. So I can put out so much better. And so it's like that never ending desire to like take your knowledge and put it out, but everyone has that ability. And so a coach is a really natural place to start, to have high profits, right? High revenue. And you don't really have to have any type of, you should have a credential if it's like a nutritionist or dealing with people's bodies, or of course mental health, but there's no like governing body around coaching yet. And so use your best judgment, I would say, but I think everyone has a certain skill level and expertise. And like I say, you're 3 to 5 steps ahead of someone else. And that's your ideal client. That is the person who will pay you for your advice and expertise and knowledge, because you're like an escalator, right? So instead of them having to take the stairs and fall down and come back up, they get on the escalator of your knowledge, and they're just like, cool. I just, condense time so you can condense, as Tony Robbins says.
They're paying you for your failures.
Yes. Tony says, you can turn decades into days. That's essentially what you do as a coach, right? And so like, take what you know, talk about it, teach it to someone so that they don't have to make as many failures and mistakes. And you have to test and improve a lot of this stuff along the way. And so that's like how you can kind of start to be in coaching. But I think it's all about community. That's really what I teach, because none of this would have happened for me if I hadn't already had that community of people who thought that I was a credible resource and they know, liked, and trusted me.
Yeah, totally. I love all that stuff. So as you know, as a podcaster, because you have a podcast as well, and we'll get to that, but I get the opportunity to talk to some of the most incredible people in the world, the most successful people in the world, however you want to define success. And so my question for you is, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
It's a good question. Defining success for me is living your truth. Really, it's like living your truth. You don't have to have all the money in the world. If you want to just go travel the world, amazing, go do it. But I think as I've continued to like mature and be my own boss, right? Like everything is on your shoulders. You have all the responsibility in the world. I think that's something a lot of people don't consider when they say they want to be an entrepreneur. It's like, if it doesn't work, I don't get paid. Right. And now there's people that are like, I'm the breadwinner of my household, and there are people that I'm supporting. And so that takes it to another level. And so you really have to be like prepared to expand and really stretch yourself and be along for that ride. And so for me, my label of success is really just like living your truth and feeling like you're adding something positive to the world. And so when I see these women, these young women, that they make their first sale, and I'm like, oh yeah, like this is the best feeling in the world, right? Like I'm giving someone power over their own destiny, over their own life. It's not about, having everyone make all this money. It's like they can go and do that and repeat that skill forever. And they have an uncapped, possibilities. And so 3 things that I do every day: read like some type of book or some type of audio book. I'll do like a spiritual, I'll do a money, I'll do a business book, anything. Like right now I'm really into storytelling. So that's something I've been learning a lot about, just like challenging myself and like expanding my mindset. Second thing, screenless walks are really important for me to like really ground and be present and get back into gratitude, because I spend so much time on the screen, right? It's like I have to detach from that, or I do start to compare. I do start to get back into those like negative spaces. And a third thing I would say is brain dumping, like journaling, if you will, just really kind of like, where am I at? What do I want to do more of? What do I need to do less of? And kind of just like checking in with myself and that awareness.
I love it. So obviously I'd mentioned you have the podcast. So tell us the name of the podcast, because what I've realized doing these podcasts and being on so many and having so many people on mine, it's super easy for people to listen that are listening right now. The second you mention your podcast, they hit pause, they go find yours, they hit subscribe. So what's the name of the podcast? What's all that good stuff?
Yeah, so we are the Soulpreneur Show, SOUL, Soulpreneur. Just sort of the idea of like soulful entrepreneurship was really like the movement I wanted to lead, right? So impact-driven women and men. So you can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts, and you can find me on Instagram at Namaste Jenay.
Awesome. And what about anybody listening right now who your message really resonated with them? How do they get a hold of you? How do they start working with you? Where do they get your courses? What's all that stuff?
Absolutely. So we have a free training. That's where I would suggest everyone begins. It's about 75 minutes of free coaching with me. It's at the link in my bio, and we'll send you the link if you want to post it in the show notes. And that's really the best way. And start following me on Instagram, and you can always DM me. I respond to all my own DMs. I'm there. So I'm happy to chat with you and kind of figure out what's the right fit and next step for you in your journey.
That's awesome. She's there replying unless she is on that screenless walk.
Yes.
So don't try and message her then, because you won't get a response. But Jenay, I've loved this conversation. And obviously we want to make sure everybody goes, finds you, supports you, looks into your stuff, because people should know at this point that they've listened to my show for a while. I'm very, very picky with who I have on, because I look at you guys as a gift to my audience as far as what kind of information you can bring them. So guys, check her out, go a little bit deeper. Now, obviously this podcast is called the Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question. And that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Saying yes to my dreams and no to pleasing everyone else. For
Awesome.
sure. Yeah.
Awesome. Jenay, I've loved this conversation. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your wisdom, but also doing what you do, because like you said, it's not just about making money. It's about taking your information, giving it to somebody so they can go live their dreams. And I see it happening more and more with what you're building, and it's been phenomenal. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.